Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X-Button, Season 3, Episode 9, if I'm not mistaken. I'm your host, Alejandro. With me is the hobbit that just went on his unexpected journey.
Oh, hey everybody, how's it going?
How you doing, Paul? You sound so different, you look so different, you look like life has just kicked you left and right as you make your travels.
Just a little bit, I would say. Moving sucks, and I didn't fully understand or respect that take until now. And boy, it's like just being perpetually tired, and not great, but I'm here.
Hey, that'll be me soon. So I'll join you there.
I've played like about 10% of the games that I usually play. But besides that, we have our other co-host who has taken over for me.
Yeah.
How you doing, my man?
How you doing?
Doing good. Power level above 9,000. I am just, living life, chilling out, maxing out, relaxing on cool. I was shooting some b-ball outside the school, but it's raining here, so I went back in the house. But everything's pretty good here. I'm glad to hear that y'all two are well, despite all the technical difficulties that are going on Paul's side, and Al, on your side, I don't hear any construction, so I'm gonna take that as a progress there.
Yeah, the construction is finally done. Now the only sounds we will hear is probably my dog, like always. Like last episode, that just as soon as we started, she had been quiet the whole time, and then she just started barking. Right now, she's we took her to the bed for a shower, so they're gonna pick her up anytime soon. So at any point we might hear her. Who knows? But I'm just glad that we're here. Glad to see you again, Paul. Usually I don't see you unless you're going a vacation. And even then, we record early, an evergreen, like we did last year when you went to Destin. So this has been before our holiday break, the longest I have not seen your face. So
It's been a minute. It doesn't feel right at all. But now I'm like, oh, did I need more time to get prepared? Who knows?
Yeah, but don't worry. I'm glad to have you here. Even if you haven't played much, you can still say a little bit. But before we get into that spiel, just a reminder that this is the X-Button podcast, or gaming podcast that posts every Thursdays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing, available in the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at anchor.fm/escapegaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. And we're all again recording on Thursday, I think. Paul, should we make it officially now the recording times Thursdays for postings for Fridays?
Let's see how it goes for the next week or so before we say officially, but it seems like we're aiming a little later in the week as things are going.
All right, yeah. So again, this was gonna go on Friday based on when we're recording, but I'm still saying it's still Thursdays from 2 p.m. onwards. That still kind of covers what people can expect it. Yes. So Sebastion, so real quick, I wanna get ahead to your second game that you have listed here, because I played just a little bit of it, because we kind of talked about it when we were reading the game releases. Wulong Fallen Dynasty. How much have you played?
I think I'm on 20 so hours maybe.
Okay, so you've been playing a lot.
Yeah, I've been playing quite a bit. I've been playing enough to know what the ins and outs of everything, to have my review written for the ProNerdReport.com, and I'm doing a solo episode about this one on the Single Player Experience podcast. So I played quite a bit of this one.
Yeah, I had the offer to also be on that episode if I played, but I would have to fail you on that because I only played an hour of it, and then I just went and deleted it.
It wasn't for you?
Yeah, it just wasn't for me. I think it's more have you played Sekiro by any chance?
Yeah, I've played Sekiro. I would compare this more to Sekiro than I would Nioh.
Yeah, it's it feels like it's wanting to be Sekiro, but at least early on you could correct me if I'm wrong. There is no pairing, kind of like Sekiro. Early on, they want you to do the dodge thing where you press B at a specific moment to do a quick counter attack.
Oh, I mean, you can parry. You can parry pretty early on, but there's a fine line between parrying and the countering attack. Yeah.
Yeah, the counter attack, it made more sense. Parry, it looked like Sekiro, and I get this thing that when something looks like something before, it really takes a while for me to remove my mind out of how I remember another game feeling. Especially with Sekiro, the best thing about that is the pairing. Mm-hmm. It has such an amazing parry with the LB, L1 button that I wasn't feeling that in Wulong, and that game kicks your teeth so early that I was like, you know what? I'm still playing Destiny. I'm still gonna be writing the review of Destiny. Like, not for me right now. I'll wait for much later. But it's 20 hours in, Sebastion. How are you liking that game?
I like it. It kind of addresses some of the complaints that I had of like FromSoft games. Of like, I don't think FromSoft. Yeah, I think FromSoft kind of has a bit of a narrative problem in a way where like they focus more on lore than they do on actual like storytelling more so.
Their
than anything else.
their gameplay first, story like infinitesimal second.
Yeah, I will say this game doesn't have like a great story either, but at least they're trying here. I mean, but I will say the cutscenes in this game are absolutely amazing. And I think that is, as a person who really enjoys that style of narration and storytelling, where the game has isolated cutscenes or at least like emphatic story driven moments to where you can tell that this is absolutely just to build the story around you. Like, I love moments like that in video games, and this game has those, and it almost feels like an anime version of a FromSoft game in a lot of different ways. It's just, I feel like this game does a lot of good things well, but it doesn't quite nail, I guess, some of the gameplay aspects that FromSoft has like mastered over the years as well.
So, Paul, I think you would agree with me with this. Like, Dark Souls games are basically anime games, right? All of them because of the Berserk influences.
Memes kind of turn them into that. I always honestly thought them more as a video game version of Pilgrim's Progress, if anybody remembers that book back in the day.
I read that book and I had the movie, the modern telling of that movie, like with modern stuff.
We don't talk about the movies personally, but at least like the book and that concept of like, you are a regular Joe Schmo with a sword and a shield. Hope you survive. But later on, I feel like people kind of took that and ran with it and turned it into like big anime energy constantly. And now I think something like Elden Ring leans very heavily into that. Sekiro definitely does as well. Yeah, okay, maybe Bloodborne too, if they really want to go that route. But it's just because anime is universal, man.
It's funny you mentioned Bloodborne, because one of the head designers of Bloodborne worked on Wulong. That was like the big promotional like push for this game, that they had a Bloodborne guy working with Team Ninja. So, but the games don't feel at all like FromSoft, like not even close. So,
I will say, like, I think this, like, the FromSoft games feel like old school anime more so than new school anime. Like, new school anime has like a huge emphasis in storytelling, and like they establish lore, but a lot of the newer anime, such as like, the staples such as My Hero Season 6 or like our Attack on Titan and such like that, are like ingrained into their story, and they like, it's almost like they tell a good story and then the action and the lore comes second. So I'm like, I feel like that's more like 90s and mid 2000s anime that FromSoft games kind of emulate.
Yeah, that's fair. So, but you like it. That's like the big thing. You played a good 20 hours in so far.
I like it. I don't love it. I think that almost might be a theme for this year. Besides Hi-Fi Rush, I've rarely found any main AAA games that I love. I think like I like them. Okay, I'm okay with it. It's almost like we're dating for a little while, but I don't want to make the big long-term commitment yet. And I'm like, but we're getting so many of these, I think 7 out of 10s, that it's perfect. It's there's a little bit something for everyone, but I don't feel like this year we've hit a Elden Ring, or we've hit a Breath of the Wild, or we hit anything like masterful.
That's coming.
Yeah, it is. It is, but I don't even think we hit a game on the caliber of Spider-Man yet. It's like, I feel like there's a lot of goods, but not greats so far in 2023. What about y'all? Do y'all feel the same way?
The only game that I've liked, not loved, is Forspoken. And even then, I know that game has been like, I'm like in the minority of actually liking that game, considering how it reviewed and now that studio won in the way of the Dodo. I have really liked a lot of the games that I've played. Like the Dead Space remake, even haven't beaten it. The thing I played, amazing. Mm-hmm. I am way higher than both of you on Hogwarts Legacy. To me, that game is mighty impressive. And hey, even freaking Angry Joe just gave it a 10 out of 10. Angry Joe, of all people.
Why would he Oh,
Yeah.
Angry Joe, what's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, and he also gave Dead Space a 10, so that's to kind of give you an idea of kind of where his mind has been like over the last month. And the only miss for me has been Atomic Heart, which obviously, Paul, you played a little. You played a little bit more than I did. Like me and Sebastion started spiel for Atomic Heart. You played a little bit more than I did, so
I
I had the
did.
2 cents.
So yeah, I'll jump into that, and it's Atomic Heart is such a weird feeling game. It really wants you to think that you're playing a Bioshock game, but it absolutely is not.
And it feels worse. It feels way worse than one.
It certainly does. It looks like it would play great because it is all created to make it as cinematic as possible. Motion blur and everything moving around. It's just supposed to look really solid with like the Doom dodge mechanic and everything. I see what they were going for, but I think there's an issue with polish, which I'm sure everybody has already fought to death by now. One issue and an example of that is that you are fighting enemies in like an underground hallway at some point. I dash out of the way, around a corner to use it as cover, and the area of attack move goes under the floor and hits me anyway. It's essentially, it was like they stabbed their little stun baton into the ground. It's supposed to travel straight towards you. Naturally, when you go behind a wall, I would assume that would stop, but it just kind of goes through the ether and hits me anyway, and that really upset me for some reason. But beyond that, there's just this weird level of jank going on. The animations are great, but then at the same time, there's something just kind of off. Like your main character reacts way angrier than he really ever should to any situation. Like
he feels like a pro wrestling character.
Yeah, he sounds like Triple H essentially. Where he goes onto a train and the guy's like, yeah, there's like, you need a ticket, and this dude like loses his mind, like hair and energy walking into a GameStop, like, are you serious? Do you not know who I am? You need to start this train right now, mister. I will like kill you right here. And I'm like, buddy, just go get a ticket. Everybody's dead. Just pick one up. It's fine. And like, I was over here getting actually upset at the fact that this guy was so pissed off at everything.
He is a very unlikable character.
Yeah.
Like to me, like I
really
can't believe I live in a world where I much prefer hearing the dialogue of Forspoken than I do Atomic Heart. After all of that game was clown on that dialogue, and it feels like the quippy, especially the attitude the main character has of Atomic Heart, and then trying to be a Squipster talking to his machine stuff, like feels more out of place there, especially because in Forspoken, you know, it was more in on the joke of the isekai. This is not an isekai.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of it's weird because it's like the person playing, what was it named, P3, which is weird because you're called that, but everybody refers to you by your real name.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very confusing for him. But anyway, it's like they told him to do his best Roy Baker impression, but then his personality doesn't line up at all with that kind of characterization. Because you're right, he is kind of more talking like Forspoken Spray rather than like, hey, I'm a competent spec ops, really good soldier. Instead, I'm talking like a 12-year-old in Call of Duty lobby. So yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on with that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. The way the pacing is really all thrown off. They do that same thing that I once complained about the 2018 God of War, where it's like they give you an objective and they keep giving you things to fail that objective, to move on to the next thing, having to go back to talk to the train guy and find like 3 different tickets, like just felt very strangely paced, and that kept happening throughout the game. So I know I want to go back and just finish it, but at the same time I'm starting to see why a lot of people have just kind of dropped this game all of a sudden, which is a shame because it looks and sometimes feels amazing, and sometimes it just doesn't.
Can I interject a little bit here and say that I feel a lot of the things that you feel, Paul, and you know, it kind of Here's how I felt about the dialogue when I was playing it. It almost felt like someone was watching Deadpool back when Deadpool was released, and they decided they wanted to emulate kind of like that tone, but it doesn't really fit the tone of the game very well.
And it makes sense. This game has been in development for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They have been saying that this was like 7, 8 years in development, and based on the timing, that would check out. Like Deadpool original one 2016 and Deadpool 2 2018.
Yeah, I think that I think the same almost could be said for Forspoken, but Forspoken's dialogue kind of matches that world a little bit. But I think we're seeing a lot of games now come out have that kind of Deadpool tone to it, to where everyone's trying to be like tongue in cheek, very almost meta in a different way.
And the thing is that it's not just saying that it's Deadpool; that they blame it more on the MCU and Joss Whedon, because that was his writing in the first Avenger, and obviously like, since he like his star way fell of like the of acceptability ever since like his the claims of impropriety that everyone felt threw at him, that now everything that remotely feels like it's like his work is like being shit on right now, like anything similar. And not many people say Deadpool, even though that is Deadpool.
It is.
Yeah, that is literally Deadpool's character. So.
It is. And another thing I wanted to say about Atomic Heart, I mean, like, if someone didn't tell me who this studio was made by, a lot of the jank is very reminiscent of a Bethesda game in a lot of different ways, and a lot of like the viewpoints, a lot of like some of the way you move around almost feels very Bethesda-esque. And you know, like it's kind of a lot of the times reminds me of like early stages of Fallout, maybe like Fallout New Vegas mixed in with a little bit of Fallout 4, but not quite the same gameplay there. But like a lot of that jankiness from what you expect from the Fallout games kind of feels present. And then like I do want to give them credit, because Atomic Heart does have some really cool features, like swimming through that ooze, the one that kind of looks like water but it kind of moves like gel.
Glycerin.
Yeah, the glycerin, I loved that effect of like, in that thought process of like you swimming through to the next room, or you swimming to another platform.
And dash out of it.
Yeah, and you kind of have that boost out of it. Now, they don't explain how you kind of boost out of different things like that, but like, I like elements of this game. It feels like weird, cool sci-fi that I can get behind. It just feels like a lot of it, kind of like what me and Paul said about like Hogwarts Legacy. A lot of it feels half-baked, you know?
Yeah, but Atomic Heart definitely feels even more half-baked than something like Hogwarts Legacy. Sure. Like any claims of half-bakedness, I'm coming at the defense of Hogwarts Legacy from both of you. But with Atomic Heart, yeah, it's like all the cool elements.
Atomic Heart isn't even half-baked. It's like a quarter baked with like a little bit extra.
Yeah.
Hogwarts Legacy is like half-baked, but like with an asterisk that's like 5/8 maybe.
You know,
yeah.
And you know, Alejandro, I mean, half-baked for Hogwarts Legacy is like half-baked as far as its lore goes. I don't think it's a bad game. I just don't think, like, compared to like what we expect from like the Harry Potter universe, it doesn't feel like, you know, like they kept in true to the world of Harry Potter. It's almost like if you played a Batman game and then they gave Batman guns, and you would look at this and be like, "Oh, this
technically
like
they
Batman.
did in Arkham Knight with the freaking Bat Tank."
yeah, but you get what I mean. People complained about the Bat Tank pretty heavily. Though. I mean, it's like if you gave Batman pistols, or if like you played a Superman game and Superman just went around snapping necks, you would just be like, "Oh, this doesn't feel like an actual Superman game."
Yeah,
you know?
it's like it's half baked in comparison to the lore, but not as a video game. Like Atomic Heart is like a half baked video game. So that's kind of like where it breaks down. But yeah, it's like I still don't know if I still have Atomic Heart installed, because it was 70 gigs. Like I still haven't got the itch to like go back to it. But obviously, because my life has been sucked by the other game, that I'm gonna go back to that with you, Paul. But Sebastion, tell me a little bit about Maquis Adventure.
Maquis Adventure. I have an interview coming up with the dev of this game. The episode should be dropping soon. But like, Maquis Adventure is a game that sort of like takes elements from Diddy Kong Racing, takes elements from Mario 64. It takes like that old school Nintendo 64 kind of elements, and it also mixes them in with a 2D action adventure game platform. And so it's a fusion between two different genres that really works well. So you play as a just straight-laced adventurer who's a almost like Maui from Moana. Have y'all both seen that movie?
Yeah.
Where like he can change into different animals and different creatures and such like that. He's a shapeshifter. Like your character in this is a shapeshifter who just can transform into different versions of sharks. So like the platforming element is just like half of it you're on the surface and you're just doing the regular 2D adventure thing where you're like almost Rogue Legacy-esque where you're fighting people off, or like platforming in between different stages. You're trying to solve the regular Metroidvania kind of stuff. And then there's other elements where you're diving underwater and solving underwater puzzles, and you transform into different sharks that enable you to have different abilities underwater. For one instance, like
I love how the shark looks. I'm looking at the I'm looking at the art. The black and red shark.
Yeah, it's like, it's the art style. It's very like 2D-esque. It's not like blowing anybody away, but this is a fun game, especially if you like 2D action adventure platformers. And the fact
but it has 3D moments, right?
It does have 3D moments.
I'm looking at like when you go at the shark, that it actually becomes like a 3D thing, and some screenshots are just like a 2D game.
Yeah, so it's like the 3D aspects are when you travel in between the different levels. Like you know how like in Mario World, like you
or you mentioned it, Diddy Kong Racing also.
And Diddy Kong Racing, you travel
and
travel in between the different points. That's when it becomes 3D. But when you're in the levels, it narrows down and becomes like a 2D action adventure platformer. But when you're like just roaming around the world, it's a 3D. It's just a 3D open world game kind of.
Yeah. And are the levels, Sebastion, just like level based, or is this like Metroidvania? Like
it's Metroidvania-esque, yeah. And so
another one.
Yeah, it is Metroidvania-esque, and I'm saying esque. It's not completely. It's like light. It's not like, I would probably say, it's not like Rogue Legacy where it's like a full veil Metroidvania game. I think you can beat this whole game in probably 7 hours. That's how much I clocked it in at. So it's very tonal focused Metroidvania, and I just got to shout out the fact that I've never played a game that kind of had this many like different ideas and wacky ideas, and that comes together this well. And so I think people should definitely try this out. I believe the game is on the cheaper side. I did get the code for review, just full disclosure there. But like the fact that you could transform into these different sharks, such as like a hammerhead shark that allows you to crush elements underwater, the regular like shark that allows you to chew up your enemies, and then they have like this smaller like almost bottlenose shark that quickly allows you to swim in between like different elements. It's really creative how like the developers thought about different elements of this game.
Yeah, you tell me it's a Metroidvania and I'm in. This is just on PC currently, right? Or do you know if it's
PC, and I think he said there's going to be a Switch port pretty soon.
Makes sense. And then eventually that just cascades into the other consoles too. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, it does sound fun. So I beat yesterday Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. I took a little break from reviewing Destiny to just be like, because I did literally everything humanly possible that I could do from that expansion currently as I wait for the raid. I played through the entirety of the sequel trilogy. Initially starting that, it felt like I was opening an old wound. I texted Paul and in the chat that I got with Paul and my friend Zach yesterday, and because I hadn't realized how much like my disgust after Rise of Skywalker around like 2019, 2020 is like what soured my opinion around a bunch of this stuff. But playing something like The Force Awakens, it was just a reminder of, oh yeah, this movie was really fun, and like I love a bunch of stuff with this game. They present everything in such a fun, quirky, like they give you the greatest hits. They hit all the good parts, like also in almost quick succession, that I just like blasted through it. And then something like The Last Jedi, which I'm in the positive side of the camp and of that destructive discourse, and I'm like, oh yeah, this movie, I like this movie, but man, it's not conducive for a fun game. It seems like you do a lot of walking in that episode, like literally a lot of Naughty Dog style slow walking from like one point of act to the other point, and there's some really amazing jokes there. They embrace the memes that came out of the movie. Shirtless Kylo Ren like slays me, and the Skype calls and all that. But to me, like the greatest compliment that I can give them is that I went through The Rise of Skywalker, my least favorite Star Wars movie of all time, and I had so much fun playing that movie in this game, because that movie is just so ridiculous that playing it in cartoon form makes that story feel more palatable, but it has all the nonsense of that movie, but it still felt more fun. And that finally made me complete this game finally after having just played Phantom Menace last year and never going back to it. And that was my only opinion of that. Now that I've experienced this thing in its entirety, it has its low points, but overall I really love this package. Like, it's especially right now that we're in Mandalorian time. Paul, have you watched episode 2 by the way?
Just the first one.
Okay, you have to watch the second episode. The second episode is so much better than the first one, and you ended up loving the first episode.
And I enjoyed the first one. Yeah.
So the second one is significantly better. So right now we're back in like Star Wars release cadence. I'm glad that I'm feeling that love for Star Wars again. Kind of like the excitement to like be part of that world again as we lead into Survivor. And today, the Dead Cells Return to Castlevania thing launched, and I was interested in that because I remember I enjoyed Dead Cells a lot when I played it in Game Pass back in like 2019. That was the last time that I played it, but then I never went back to it and continued doing runs and all that. And then when we saw the Castlevania thing, which vibes with me a lot, I was like, yeah, I'll definitely check back Dead Cells again. I mean, it's an old game, but I still have it there. I bought it because I had played it on Game Pass. I bought it on a steep sale on PlayStation because I just prefer trophies. That was gonna give me more of an incentivation to play it. And yeah, I saw the review today from IGN. I gave it a 10. I was like, what? Okay. And so it is just $10. I was like, okay, $10. Yeah, I'll buy and go back in. I'll just give a forewarning for anyone that may be interested in playing this Castlevania side of Dead Cells. If you have never completed a single run from Dead Cells, you're not gonna be able to play the DLC, like, at all. Like, you have to complete a first run, like reach what's the quote-unquote ending of a run to be able to unlock a bunch of stuff that then unlocks the Castlevania stuff. Thankfully, I don't know when they did this, they added assisted mode. That's basically easy mode. This game is brutally hard, but that was kind of part of the appeal, that in the same way, yes, sort of roguelike-ish, but also more like Souls-like-ish, that you keep like upgrading stuff that you carry into like a new runs, and it just keeps getting progressively easier. If you have no time for that, go to the assist mode, lower all enemy health like to the very bottom, make it the thing easy. You can blast through the whole thing in like 40 minutes, and then you'll be able to like unlock everything to play the Castlevania stuff. And I tell you, Paul, the Castlevania stuff, how they did it, I'm in awe. Like seeing it in the Dead Cells art style, and seeing Richter Belmont, and like seeing all like the enemies, and being able, like, part of the loot that you acquire in that thing, being the Castlevania weapons, the whips, all of that. Like you can unlock it, like doing that stuff, and I'm like, ooh man, I can't wait to play more. Like literally, I can't wait to play more, because to me Dead Cells plays so well. That's like, I'm not a big roguelike guy. To me, the two ones that I've enjoyed was Hades and this one. Why I have enjoyed this? Because I really love the gameplay. Rogue Legacy, I haven't tried the second one, Sebastion. The first one, I didn't enjoy how it felt to control, so I couldn't quite break into that one. But Dead Cells is like such a tight controlling game, and me that I love like tight controlling side scrollers, that I was just like, because I played on Game Pass, and you having to do today the run and assistant mode, playing that. I think I got some videos in that I was able to get some weapons that was just melting bosses so quick, and like in like quick succession. There's something super satisfying about the Dead Cells loop. So again, like, if you played Dead Cells before and you still have a save there, and you're interested in the Castlevania thing, definitely dive in. You will find it very interesting how they segue into, like, you think you're doing a normal run, and then you run into Richter Belmont, and then you immediately go into the castle, which is the final area in a normal run, and that's when it becomes a Castlevania game. So, and it's so cool, and apparently you unlock more stuff after completing that, including being able to play as one of the Belmonts. So now you're a headless character. It eventually becomes a Castlevania from like what I read. So, and it's just $10. So I would say, like, say.
I was just about to ask, so I haven't jumped into the Dead Cells Castlevania expansion, but I gotta ask you, based on what you played so far, do you feel like you would want this studio to do their own Castlevania game?
Dude, absolutely yes. they literally did it. That's how it feels like when you jump into like Castlevania stuff. It's like it immediately shifts into that, and I'm like, oh, this is what modern 2D Castlevania could look like. And this game controls so well that, especially I would dare say, controls even better than the GBA collection, Paul. That was really good. The one that had the GBA Castlevania, Area of Sorrow, the ones that we got. Yeah, and that was really good. Now imagine it playing better, because that still just plays so much better. So I feel like now this feels like a test. I feel like this feels like a test bed. We had heard that Konami has been like auctioning their IP for people that really want to do it, and Motion Twin, the guys that worked on Dead Cells, have mentioned that a big inspiration for this game was Castlevania. So them announcing the Return to Castlevania DLC felt like a match made in heaven. It was like, oh, they mentioned what their inspiration are, now they got the keys for the kingdom, and they did like a DLC within their own game. It feels like this could lead them then now to do like a proper 2D Castlevania game, which we haven't had one since like Mirrors of Fate in the 3DS.
It's been a long time.
That eventually made it to PS3 and 360, and that one wasn't very good because it was just more combat focused than the all-encompassing Castlevania experience from like Symphony of the Night onward. So yeah, I would say, yeah, with that little caveat thrown for people that haven't played Dead Cells is still amazing. I would dare say even more amazing as time has gone in, and especially with assisted mode, much easier way for people to get in, because roguelikes are hard by default, and that makes it very easy for people to see them as like impenetrable. Before I dive into my further thoughts on Destiny 2 Lightfall, Paul, I want to hear yours. You started playing the campaign. You're like 3 missions in.
Yeah, so alright. I definitely don't hate it nearly as much as a lot of people seem to. I thought it was fine for the 3 missions that I played. I know a lot of the complaints I didn't even really get to. I only got to like the first mention of the Veil, where it was kind of funny. The mission that it began with, they're like, get to the Veil before the witness does. I was like, okay,
from the very beginning,
it's like an overall like objective, and then after like 5 minutes, you just get to this place randomly in the middle of the map, and it's like, all right, you reach the Veil. And I went, what? No, that was it.
And it's been captured. You're like looking at.
Yeah, and I sympathize a lot with a lot of the audience where they're just like, all right, where did this come from? Why did you throw this random concept in? It's all of the somehow Palpatine return thing, and I hate going on that because it's low-hanging fruit. But at the same time, it's still valid at the same time. And while I'm enjoying myself in the environment, and even though I haven't fully unlocked Strand as an ability,
you have to beat the campaign.
Seen what it can do.
You have to beat the campaign for that to fully unlock.
I'm really looking forward to it. And at the same time, it's like I can feel my own hype almost being ruined by the internet, where I feel like I could have just played through and been like, yeah, that was okay. But like everybody's so adamant about hating things that it just kind of starts to ruin my enjoyment of it. So if I don't get in before everyone just keeps beating the dead horse, it just, or
like Sebastion loves saying, like taking it to the streets and beating it to the ball.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, and it's accurate too, because it just after a while it's like, all right, I really want to like this, but everybody else is saying these things, and I know everyone's like, oh, why don't you just like get over it and not let other people's statements affect your opinion on it? But it's like, after a while, if you hear everyone else saying mean things about it, you're like, oh, I guess it does kind of suck. Oh well. But
again, like here's something that I need to like further elaborate, especially for you, Paul. Like, you haven't been on the Destiny train like in its entirety since like you have jumped in and out. In fact, like you jumped out for a while. I brought you back in 2020.
Yeah.
Like the people that felt incensed by this campaign, like especially from a story perspective, there are people that have been following this thing for like almost its 9 years. You haven't jumped in 2020. You're not as invested in that way. And I'll say this, like the hatred towards like this entire expansion just based on the story alone has it dissipated massively since the last week that I recorded, because the more people have engaged with the game, not just a story, the game.
Right.
Now people are like, you know what? Yes, the story deserves clowning on, but this is so much fun. If you're having fun with the campaign, Paul, you're gonna have fun with it in its entirety. Barring 2 sections, if you're playing Legendary, they're gonna be a little difficult. But it's like, what do you play Destiny for, Paul? What do you play Destiny for? What have we been playing it for over the last 2 years?
It's always the gameplay.
There you go. Exactly.
And I'm sure I'm going to continue to enjoy it. It's just one of those things where I can't play any of it hardly.
Mm-hmm.
That all I hear is just, influx rather than me getting to have my own experiences with it. And, especially, you can almost liken it to whenever people are talking about a movie, or if they're talking over the movie you're trying to watch, you're like, shut up and let me finish this, then we can talk.
Yeah.
But so it's like, I know I can't tell the whole world to stop talking while I get this life change out of the way. But you know what? I think I'll take this life change now for Destiny over, imagine if I'd moved the day before Jedi Survivor came out. That would have broken me.
Yes.
Or
Oh, man.
other single player games that I've been really looking forward to, because people just don't have patience anymore, and will just start casually posting spoilers about 3 days after the game comes out.
Mm-hmm.
But at least for this one, it's like, I don't really care about the spoilers at the end. I just want to run around and blow things up with grand abilities. So it's one of those, I almost don't have a horse in the race, but the part of it that I do is everyone's right, but also let's try to enjoy things still.
No, and
that's kind of really all I have.
Yeah, that's been kind of the more sombering point. As I kept playing after I went on my long therapy session with Sebastion last week, because I was just raw, having just had been in the campaign, so that was everything that I had more in my mind, and they had a few things from the post game that I had sort of touched in, and now that I've completed pretty much everything post game available until the raid comes in, including some of the stuff that unlocked this week, a very cool secret exotic mission, Paul, that you'll eventually see. It was just exactly, you'll see it whenever you play it. It's it was a secret exotic mission at the European Dead Zone, and I was like, yes, why do I play this thing for the experience that I usually get post campaigns? It was more disappointing because last year was their attempt at saying, the stuff you usually do after campaigns is usually awesome, let's make a campaign awesome too. And what they did this year was do a campaign that's only half awesome, which is the gameplay side. Replaying it, because I'm doing it the legendary run with my Titan, where I told you that I was breaking it with the Lorelei Helm exotic that was trivializing some of the hardest parts, and I'm like, yes, this thing is so much fun. The combat scenarios are so much fun. There's they still the special sauce that made the campaign fun to play last time was still there. And the post game, I dare say, is the most fun I've had with a post game in the last 3 years of Destiny. And I think it's because of Strand, the new ability. Sebastion mentioned yesterday that it sucked that there was a high cooldown when it tied to the grapple after you moved away from the campaign. The day we recorded, they unlocked all the upgrades for that, because they were gonna time gate it, but they were like, let's just unlock it for everyone, let's give them some fun, because everyone's the internet's on fire. And one of those aspects completely fixed the problem. It's you get your grapple on any damage that you make, whatever it is, where you fart on someone, where you jump on someone, wherever you shoot them, whatever. It's you get that thing back, and it just makes the combat sandbox so much fun. The builds that I'm seeing people create with the new subclass, where everyone's tangling everyone like a freaking Spider-Man, that just tangle after tangle after tangle after tangle, a million grapple hook punches that you can create, and then when you create those grapple hook punches, creates the alien groups called threadlings that can be with you, and then you send them to enemies that then just attack them like it's freaking parasites. It's just so much fun and so satisfying. On top of that, now the game is properly difficult, with the exception of a few parts that are super difficult, that it feels that it feels like you're not steamrolling all the content. I'm enjoying doing strikes again, Paul. Remember when I told you I'm so sick of doing strikes, I'm so sick of doing that, because it's just brain dead work. They're still not super hard, but now it feels like I'm not just staring at something and completely melting it, which is how it was feeling. And it feels like the game now, like if from a systems perspective now, it's much better than it was last year. And all that noise has just been like, what was being kind of like shut up because of people's massive disappointment on the story of the campaign, which is valid. But the thing is that that's not what defines an expansion. And I already am 1810, Paul. I'm raid ready. I've never been this raid ready this early. That's how much I've been playing this. And that to me, that says something, because I barely crawled into being raid ready last year with Witch Queen because I wasn't having as much fun after the campaign. This time it's been the opposite, and the community has turning around. Like what that, in fact, it's so funny. Like what created the turnaround for the opinion was the IGN review in progress. That was like, because that it came in with like a 5 out of 10, and then literally the entire community was like, whoa, yes, there's disappointment with that, but this is not a 5 out of 10. Like, not at all. Like, this is not enough. So it's so funny. Like, the reverse psychology happened, that whenever now they saw a number being posted online, like as a kind of like an official review, even though it was a review in progress, that's what created like the backlash to the backlash, and it was funny seeing that. I always felt like it was, because I told you yesterday, like last week, Sebastion, that having just finished the campaign as a campaign alone, it's probably still something that I would rate personally like a 6 out of 10. Just in comparison to the one from the previous year. On itself is like a 7-8, and this expansion overall is in that range for me. I'm not just waiting for the raid for Friday, and then depending on how good that is, that's when I'm gonna be posting my review next week. But yeah, I've been feeling much better. But as an overall thing, like if I compare the entire package to last year, Witch Queen felt more like important
package
for more like a complete package than this one. This one feels more like traditional, like Beyond Light, Paul. This feels like Beyond Light. Yeah, and Beyond Light was great after the campaign, and you unlocked all this stuff. So
right. So, and I don't have to go through all of the absolutely stupid stuff that you have to do to unlock aspects of bases.
You only have to unlock currency, which you get just playing the game, instead of having to do all the quests for that. Much better system.
That they just didn't like take that away. Like just remove all of it. Let us buy stuff from Icor Ray or Stasis if you want people to use it, because I have no desire to continue using it when everything else is easier to build crypts. If I don't want to spend weeks getting the different quests knocked out and finally have a good Stasis build.
Yeah, and the quality of life overall that they've done with the expansion, with like making mods so much easier to read, and even though there was initial disappointment at the disappearance of elemental wells, Paul, like when everyone was in, they have found the.
I missed them.
Yeah, but
still.
But then like the orbs are basically the same, and now you can proc them all the time.
Yeah. They kind of consolidated, which I appreciate. I still need to take time. Once again, when I can play the game, I can watch more things about the game, and then therefore understand the game more. Mm-hmm. But as it stands, it's like I only have time to do one of those 3 things, and that is about 30 minutes long.
Yeah. So our good buddy Duncan, Paul, one of these weeks we're gonna bring them to the podcast to talk more about like Lightfall, because they want to say more about because just talking to Duncan, like hearing, do you know that the Veil has actually been mentioned in like the raids, dating back to Garden of Salvation?
Yeah, they mentioned that there was a lot of like deep lore about it that I just didn't follow through on, because
why would you follow lore in a raid when you're with 6 people talking?
And it's like, I guess if it's mentioned in the raid, it's like, what are you doing during that time? Because I'd only played Garden of Salvation once, and that thing was kind of one of those situations where you had to focus 110% of yourself on what's in front of you, and all the really intricate puzzles and stuff. So I guess it depends on where it was. I expected you to understand what it was, but also if you're going to have that happen back at the release of a very early raid, maybe like trickle it back into the public consciousness. Like for me with last season, and Lotus Bray's daughter, whose name is escaping me right now,
Anna Bray.
As somebody who, Anna. As somebody who's
we're talking in Chinese to Sebastion right now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I know. like Season of the Splicer, and before that, like she was before all that stuff, and then she just showed up being a super important member of that season. I'm just like, who is this? Like, maybe it's indicative of a bigger problem. What they don't like reintroduce anybody. It's just like, hey, this is that character. They're doing a thing that's.
And the thing is, Paul, that they already reintroduced her in a season long gone from after you had jumped in.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Like,
So
this is the same issue as that whole Vale mentioned in a previous raid at like the beginning of what, D2 or something.
Year three of D2, so 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, still 2 years ago. There we go. So yeah, that's just the whole problem with all this is Bungie kind of just throws things back into the rotation, but with no interest in explaining what something was, especially if it was only for one season or one raid or whatever. Imagine how few people have actually played or finished Garden of Salvation. It's one of the worst raids there is.
One of the hardest ones to complete.
Yeah, so it's like, why are you going to have something that is now associated with the entire campaign without bringing it back? I guess really
some of the post-game storytelling that has happened after campaign has actually been pretty solid, and also the seasonal.
I really want to get into that.
And also the seasonal story. I'm like, man, they really put some of the really good writers now in seasons, because seasonal story has been really good with Destiny, like ongoing. The end of last season was amazing, with like the Traveler going to the sky and all that, and the and the death of Rasputin. It was like, that's what made people more pain about how the campaign story went, because it was like, dude, just a week ago we saw like an amazing like end to a season. Like, it's so crazy that that quality didn't like transfer a bit. It's because they had different teams working on different stuff, and now there's just hoping that they do a complete package next year for Final Shape. But I'm feeling more confident about like Destiny now long term for the rest of the year, because they did damage control a little bit at the top, saying that, hey, this is the beginning of a year-long story that's gonna tie both expansions together. They usually don't tie a story in seasons. Now they went ahead and basically said that, so they're aware of some of their story woes. But just in gameplay alone, like, my opinion has turned more positive towards life. Last week I was like crestfallen. I was legit crestfallen.
I think this was more like my moments event about it, and next week I'm gonna feel a lot better about it all again. Yeah. Because in reality, it really is that meme of let them cook. And it's like, all right, let's let them sit in. This is the beginning point, even though Wish we maybe set us up for failure on like having such a good self-contained story. Yeah. We did continue that story in many different avenues after.
Yeah, so. and the thing is, like, what people forget, and it's just something I had to remember also, like, why the Wishwing campaign was like so good was that the Wishwing campaign was the end of a story. It was years of hearing about Sabbathun, so because they had an end point, it was easier to make like a beginning point just for that expansion, but they knew that was going to be the end. This is literally the beginning. They didn't say how much of a beginning it was going to be, and it really feels a lot like a beginning. That's why it feels so unfulfilling right now. So, but I can't wait for you to play more, so I can tell you a little bit more of the things that you don't understand. And Sebastion, I know that's gonna be like not in your wheelhouse, but you'll continue hear about us like being like the guys that are like on the hook with that game.
No, it's all good. It's all good. You know, Destiny like baffles me because like it crosses that line between the MMO and a very straight-laced single-player campaign, and you know, normally it doesn't work. Destiny is like one of the few rare exceptions to where like that fusion between two different genres really works well.
And the only example of like having all those disparate elements somehow working as close to harmony as they can get, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah, and I think that's what baffles me more so than anything, because like I get it, I'm not into Destiny, so I don't get like the minutia and like some of the terminology and all that. But I mean, that could be said about anything and everything that, you know, you're really not into if you're like playing any game on the face of the planet. But like, I think what really baffles me here is like that let it cook mentality. Is that a good indicator of a good story, or is that just like them retrospectively fixing something that is broken? Is that, I mean, how do you review that? Do you get my question there?
Yeah, I think it depends on the context of the game. For something like this, it's so difficult to know if it was like course correction or what they planned all along. All I can think is because of how much time and effort it takes to make a lot of these beforehand, it makes me think it's the latter. where much of it was already planned, the animations, the plot, the voice acting, all that. It's
Yeah, these
not
are done
something
way
that
in advance.
can be so it's not something that can just be done immediately. It's more like, well, the course correction stuff is things that, like, in between actual missions and cinematics and stuff like that, there are these little, like, audio logs or moments where you walk up to the character and you say interact, and it pulls up some
In-game
dialogue
storytelling,
you
basically.
immediately skip past, so you can get to the rest of the game usually. But that's usually, like, what they'll do to, like, quickly explain something that they might have messed up on. So if all of their stuff comes through that, then we know it's more of a course correction. But if it was like the plot focuses on stuff like that needs to be explained more, that's what I think will be more what the plan is.
And based on some of the things that I played from the post game, it seems like it was planned. I got more of an idea of what the Veil is in one of the exotic missions that ties all the way back to vanilla Destiny 1. Even though it still doesn't go as far as explaining what this damn thing is, it gives me an idea of what it is. In a way, even if it's so it's like, okay, I'm starting to see it's like, it still again like pains me that it wasn't in the campaign, because that's what I love about Witch Queen last year, that I could recommend it as a campaign thing that someone could buy for like $40 and play and enjoy, and then ignore the rest. Not quite with this, but that wasn't something that they added. That was already baked into the expansion, so it was funny. It was like, again, like they are focusing so much storytelling post game, and that to me, it's a step back slightly from how it was last year, that all the important beats were like left in the campaign, and then the post game was like just like leftovers, just finish up some leftovers before like setting up for the next thing. So yeah, it's a different time, but definitely it's to the benefit of Lightfall right now, because as it was last week, it wasn't. Everyone was like ready to just like hang them for those stumbles, but that's the nature of life. Yeah, that's the nature of live service. And again, it's like, it depends. Like if you're not into that kind of like trickle drip feed, it's worth saying like that's not for me. That's just kind of like the model that they pursued, and they've been doing really well over the last 2 years. Like
I can understand
storytelling.
Here's my question. I'm like, as a guy who's not really into Destiny, who tried out vanilla Destiny back in the day, I just want to challenge y'all. Pitch me on this. Like, how do you make someone who's a very like single player focused, campaign driven person interested in this kind of game?
Alejandro, I'll let you go first, because I have something that I can get with, like, I think within like 3 lines of dialogue.
Okay, I don't mean to derail the show. By the way, I'm just curious.
No. I love having this, because I love trying to bring in more people in, and that's why I loved Witch Queen, because it gave me that. It's like, do you like shooting? Do you like something pretty and something that looks that feels great to play? Play Destiny. That's usually like where I go. If you like storytelling, I don't think this game's for you.
Okay.
At least that's why I said, like, at least someone trying to bring it in, because I know that I always made this analogy to Paul of why I was so against the whole content vaulting that was happening, Paul, because it was like, it's like you telling me, it's like me telling you, hey, watch Game of Thrones, Sebastion. It would be like, okay, cool, but here's the thing, seasons 1 and 2 are not available right now. There's like no way to like look that up, maybe if through YouTube or not. Like officially only season 3 is available, you have to start there, but then you're like, but it's season 3, and I'm like, yeah.
Oh, that messed me up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like the one that's the one area where they're like, they absolutely have to figure out how to bring back the two things that the two major content expansions that they bolted from like 2017 and 2018 to be able to see this as like a complete story. But for modern stuff, I always see it as, do you want a shooter that looks so great and feels so great to play? Play Destiny. That's usually what I say. But what say you, Paul?
So imagine, if you will, the years 2000. Actually, wait, Alejandro, when did Halo 3 come out?
2007.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so imagine, if you will, it's 2007 and you're playing Halo 3 with all of your best buddies. You're playing Forge and you're goofing off. Now imagine somebody took that concept and all of those mechanics and physics and made a game where you could play the entirety of Halo with all of your friends all the time.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. Like, everything else is almost secondary, because when I found out about Destiny and somebody pitched it as okay, so it's Halo, but with more space magic, and you can play with all of your friends all the time.
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Literally, you can play with an entire friend every single corner of that game.
Okay.
So even though I ended up eventually changing a lot of my mentality and really enjoying like just playing by myself or single player stuff, for some reason that concept stuck with me a lot, because it was like that idea that like I can goof off with my best buddies but play a game that's still really solidly made, because multiplayer games kind of stuck to me.
And they really stuck to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
To me too.
Destiny is still one of 2 games that are I would consider MMOs that I genuinely enjoy the gameplay for. The other being Warframe, because
Warframe
there's
is
such
a good
depth
example
in both of those like gameplay elements. So if you like shooting, you like the space-ish kind of stuff, there's something for you. But I think that's like the most concise way I could sell something.
Yeah, there's just something about the way Destiny feels that it's so undescribable until you like get your hand on the controller and feel the weapon kick and the way like it synergizes with like everything else about it, with its like powers and level design and its music and art, and all coalescing in a way that it's like so unlike any other shooter, like to me.
Okay.
Like to me. And I'm usually like, why I love your podcast so much, Sebastion, with the single player experience, because I'm the single player guy. You're not gonna see me play multiplayer of others. I've tried hard, being like, well, Destiny worked for me, so other ones are gonna work. And then I just see the pile of dead bodies in the wake of this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work. Destiny just has that special sauce that until you like get to experience it, is like it's almost undescribable. And then the highs of being able to like complete content with your friends, specifically the raids. Even though Paul had it took a long while for me to get Paul through one of those raids. The moment that we were able to like complete those, and some of the rewards that you can sometimes get, great moments, really, really great moments. That is unlike probably the closest I can think of, like that gives it that kind of level of satisfaction, is beating a Souls game.
Okay.
Like, literally, that's like the only time that in recent memory of like.
Yeah, honestly, and there's something to be said about like kind of wishing that there was more of an accessible way to do that, but at the same time, I have no like suggestion for a solution to that outside of like, you just gotta have enough social ability to find a group of friends that you like enough to like beat your head against the wall with them.
Yeah. And I feel like the only way to like get in any new person right now is accepting that as a story, you may be lost, but I feel like, yeah, like that's like the only way, like, but seeing it as a thing that you play, and then eventually kind of like just through your own curiosity, because there's lore books that you can like read. There's like the Mass Effect Codex is still, it's there. There's like tons of books that you can. There's so much that I haven't even read at all. Like it can satiate that like curiosity if you're looking for that. But this feels more as an experience specifically about the shooting and the looting and the and the space magic, like all of that, all of that together.
So it just sounds like Borderlands with space magic.
Yeah, pretty much. There you go.
That's what it sounds like to me. Borderlands with space magic.
How much do you care about the story of Borderlands? Very minimal.
It's
very minimal. Yeah.
More characters in Borderlands. More characters in Destiny take themselves seriously, but at the same time, like half of them don't. And that's what makes it a good blend, rather than everybody taking it.
Yeah, which was a great.
Borderlands with space, which has actually been done in Borderlands. But yeah, that's with
the pre-sequel, but with more like and just no other game feels like this one. I can't stress enough. It's like a game feels like what defines Destiny, because it's like either then other shooters are Call of Duty adjacent in the way they feel. Destiny feels so much different, and to me better. So
do y'all want this studio to keep making Destiny forever?
Yes, but they already said that they were gonna make other games. They're already hiring. They're actively making a something called Codename Matter. That's why it's called so.
Because
It's
I would love to have Destiny like as a single player Mass Effect like experience. I would love that. That sounds right up my
yeah,
alley.
they have talked about the idea of like spinning off Destiny into movies and also other stuff within the universe.
Yeah,
So,
it might just be one of these franchises that's just not going to be for me. Like a League of Legends, I love the show. I just
Yeah.
don't want to play the game at all.
yeah, I mean, I'm
Fair.
joining there. Like the League of Legends is so borderline impenetrable. So,
Yeah.
but it's like it has a
And-
million people. So,
Yeah, and it's definitely good to be said about making other kind of media that people digest, and then it makes them want to try the game. So it's like it just kind of feeds back into it overall.
yeah, we're just seeing that with The Last of Us right now.
Yeah, Destiny is definitely a shark system. If they stop for anything longer than like 2 weeks, that game is going to have a lot of issues.
Hmm.
So I would have to say that I would like them to keep working on it, but at the same time, I understand the whole idea of wanting to do different things, and especially for how big that studio has gotten and now they got that Sony money. I think they could do both, having their cake and eating it too.
Yeah, we still got you, Sebastion. I lost your camera. Did we lose you?
You're good.
Mine's
I was
lost.
just
Okay.
no,
Okay.
no, it's all good.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I was sneezing and I didn't want to like
Ah.
ruin your flow there.
No worries. It's
Okay.
we've had our flow ruined before by dog barking or cat cameos, so don't worry.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Like I either sneeze like really subtly or I do like the ugliest sneeze in the world. Yeah, and I was just like, I just didn't want to like bother y'all while you were talking with this like ugly sneeze. You know?
Paul, remember the hiccups?
Vaguely, I think.
The hiccups that I had like a hiccup
I think
attack
I
in one of our
remember that.
recordings. Yeah, but
Sorry to interrupt. I did exactly what I was unintending to do. You know.
yeah, I would say like for me with Destiny, like I wouldn't mind if they continue working on it. I just want them to like do like a fundamental rework or maybe an actual third game, like after whatever it is they expand upon next year, because they're using an engine right now that still powered PS4 and Xbox One back in like 2017, and those all consoles are still being supported. And the more expansions they kept growing, and the more they have bolted on top of like the framework. Even though they keep saying that they reworked their engine and all that, there's many elements that feel very old at this point. That if they're gonna keep going as they are, like I think I have one more year with me with like this current technology before I'm like, guys, like you gotta do like a bigger rework now, like do like a big cut. Like them saying next year is the end of the Light and Darkness saga feels like a good stopping point for like what Destiny 2 is, and it would be good time for like a new Destiny game. Like I've been in the boat of like, no, it's fine that they keep building on the one MMO because MMOs keep doing that, but I feel like they're hamstrung by the technology that they had technology that was gonna power a limited game when they were back in Activision, and because Activision was like, no, we're gonna do a Destiny 1, a 2, a 3, and even a 4. Bungie was like, no, we want to do like the one game. So they were like in a tug of war with Activision when they were doing that, and then when they broke off, then they were like, okay, we're gonna keep building on Destiny 2, even though the technology is not that. And then I feel like it's time. Like if they can do a Destiny 3 with the proper technology and be like, okay, this is the last one, this is the one we're building until we all die, I would mind it, because I would know that then they would build that game for that. Destiny 2 feels retroactively built to be like this long running thing, and that's why like you see that kind of problem of like content removal. Apparently to date there was like a character deletion bug. Paul, I don't know if you saw that, Paul. That people were logging in and they were like prompting them to like create a new character, and everyone started panicking. But they were able to like fix that and retroactively like.
That gave me flashbacks to GTA Online's launch, where they're like, "Don't keep making a created character; it keeps deleting your old one."
Yeah, no, like for real, it's like that's the kind of technology that I'm like, yeah, it's like that shows you. It's like our friend Duncan calls it the spaghetti code. It's like it's just code that's like completely crumbles, like the spaghetti when you bolt like a piece of meat on top of it. So
I have a question for y'all on the outside looking in. This is me putting my business hat on. Like if I'm PlayStation right now, and you know I we might talk about the Activision Call of Duty thing later, but like
Mhm.
I know that I might need a tentpole like multiplayer franchise. If you
Mhm.
do Destiny 3 and your PlayStation, do you make Destiny 3 exclusive?
So they already said that anything that Bungie makes is going to be multi-platform because Bungie
Mhm.
is not a PlayStation Studios banner.
Yeah,
They're just owned
that
by
makes sense.
Sony. So, and to be fair to them, that immediately as soon as that acquisition was announced, they literally said everything remains multi-platform. They haven't gone through the Microsoft song and dance of we're honoring previous commitments and we can't wait to like keep like Call of Duty for many more years to come, and seeing all the garbage that's been like the circus that's been just the acquisition left and right of Activision Blizzard. So
That makes sense. I ask in the sense that, like people say things and then they say things and then things change like 10 years from now. Like quote unquote, like Starfield will be date and date a year, really, like will come out a year from now. Like things change, like this and divorce kind of gets petty, if you know what I mean. Like I'm looking at PlayStation and like right now a whole lot of things are evolving because of the lawsuit. Like they said one thing with the Bungie thing. Do they stick by what they say, or does divorce get petty? And hey, do you say like, hey, things change, like y'all, we wanted Destiny to be on every platform, but y'all also like didn't treat us the way we wanted to be treated with that Activision thing.
at this point, I believe that could happen. Like,
Yeah,
I have learned to not say like everything is just like a set thing. The Bungie did mention that that their acquisition was more kind of like not quite a merger, but something that's just a kind of like an independent umbrella, which is a weird thing to say for something that you own. But technically, Blizzard was that with Activision until that became more of a thing. So who knows? That could happen to them, and then they could exert the no, you're not putting the things on Xbox. But as of right now, like Bungie's like adamant that everything remains multi-platform because they're adamant at keeping their player base like as widespread and all together as possible. It's really cool. Like when I play Destiny with Paul, it's like we're like the only ones in PlayStation or a clan Paul. The other ones are like on PC or on Xbox.
I hope it doesn't get that message.
And you wouldn't know because that's like a cool future that could happen. It's just with Microsoft, like you can never trust them. That's what it feels like because they go back on their word real quick, and that's kind of like their arguments with this damn lawsuit. But we're definitely gonna talk about one of the stories. So, Paul, press X.
Or some news.
All right, story number 1.
What else?
Starfield blasts off in September by Marcus Stewart and from Game Informer. So finally we got a release date. Starfield, Bethesda's mammoth-sized space RPG, is launching on September 6th. The publisher announced in a video yesterday. Additionally, a presentation showcasing more of the game called Starfield Direct will air on June 11. In a new video hosted by game director Todd Howard, he states the Direct in June, which happens to be the weekend before E3 starts, will provide a deep dive into the game. He reiterates that Starfield is a unique experience that also has many of the hallmarks fans expect from a Bethesda title. So, finally, September 6th, they said this was gonna be out within the 12 months of the E3 conference. That did not happen. And
life happens,
Yeah,
like,
life happened.
Yeah. Life comes at you fast.
Yeah, but it's like a lot of people. There was like the copium. I think we were talking about it. The copium poll that the shadow drop of Hi-Fi Rush could be like a sign of like this is also another Bethesda title. Maybe it's like there's space in March. We already got the April and May games slotted in. There's nothing in March. Maybe they were saying they were gonna do the previous, and now this is out in September. A game that was originally gonna be out on November 11th, 2022. I'm glad that it's out there. I'm really curious when Spider-Man comes out now. Very curious.
If I'm PlayStation, Spider-Man comes out in October.
If I'm PlayStation, I launch the same day.
What? You're petty.
Yeah.
You're petty.
The big down there move. Like, hey, which game's gonna be the biggest one? Let's just be
Spider-Man.
honest.
Easily
Spider-Man. So,
But both of these are console exclusives, so I mean, whoever's gonna get it is gonna play it anyways. But like the only divide you're getting is like the people who have both platforms are gonna have to choose like which game to play. But I mean, for the people who just have like the one big tent pole in either side of the fence, it's not gonna affect them either way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, Microsoft has like the advantage that this is launching, the full game's launching on Game Pass, so there's like but technically you can go buy Spider-Man, but you play it free here. So they have they kind of still have that as kind of like their one trump card. But I'm just like real curious to see like when Spider-Man will launch now, because it's like now we know they put a big stake, they put the big knife in the steak and be like, nope, here it is. Here's when we're launching. If they delay again, I'm gonna absolutely lose it. I'm gonna laugh so much that if they delay Starfield again.
I think what's telling about this news is like now that Starfield has a date, I bet that the rest of the dominoes are going to follow soon, because like let's be honest here, it's only a couple months. We still haven't gotten a date for Forza Motorsport either, and I bet that is like going to be a fall game as well, because usually
Forza's usually launch in the fall and September on top of that. So I wonder if it would be pushed like in October, because there were rumors, because if you looked at the developer direct, there were like some numbers that aligned that seemed like it was saying that it was going to launch in June 2023, but they only left like a spring, and it seems like it's just going to push. And my thing is like when we get to their showcase this June, are they again going to say the next
day and date?
No, not day and date, but they're going to say everything that we're showing here is you're going to be playing within the next 12 months. Can they get away with that again?
I don't think they'll do that again. Yeah. Based on the biggest game that everyone's been waiting for, or at least like the biggest marquee game, got moved outside of that window when they said it last year. So I think they're going to play their cards closer to the chest this time around. But that said, I mean, like, this doesn't really feel like a bad move for Xbox, you know, that Starfield's in the date like that, because now that you got that out of the way, like you can set like a good appetizer with Forza Motorsport either before or afterwards, or you can like now if Stalker is done, I mean, you can set Stalker around this date as well.
They need to, because like Stalker has technically been done. It was just like forever delayed because of the whole Ukraine war. Yeah. So, and it has a bigger shot as the other rushing after Atomic Heart kind of like fumbled. That's another game that they have on Game Pass.
Yeah. So I mean, there's like if I'm Xbox right now, sure, you're probably taking it on the chin with some people out there with the discourse of like, hey, this game got delayed again, or like, oh wow, it got delayed.
I can't wait for this Sunday's Iron Lords podcast. Because King is about to go off, because he was the one that was like, you better like launch like before June because you promised. So in fact, he was making the claims of that Starfield is so big that they were gonna put it like close to Zelda. No, they went the other way.
They went as far away as possible.
As far away, yeah. And
so at this point, I mean, like, Zelda gets to rule that time by itself, you know?
Yeah, especially with another game delay, which we're gonna talk a little bit later, which was hilarious. But
So Paul, what do you think of this delay?
Yeah.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
You sound like a dad right now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I want full dad energy with that. Not just like, oh, I'm disappointed in my favorite release thing. It's like, guys, you're one of the biggest gaming companies in the entire world. The least y'all can do is hit dates that you put out. And if you don't, that is a failure on whoever set the date. And if so, there needs to be some talks made about who set the date and why, like how you can make sure you never have that happen again. Because it's such a consistent thing with Bethesda. It's like, why is it happening? Yeah. What needs to change?
Yeah, so here's the interesting part. If Bethesda was still its own subsidiary, this would have come out last November.
And it'd been janky.
And it'd be the jankiest crap like it always is, because that's usually how they launch these games. The only time that they delayed a game before was Oblivion back in 2006. I was kind of reading that. It was like, this is the first time since Oblivion that they had like constantly delayed a game because they kind of want to get it right. And I wonder now, like, they would have wanted to get it out because that's their usual MO, but Xbox is like, now you have branding. Like, our branding's all over your game now. It can't be the janky mess, especially when they know what the janky disaster of Fallout 76 meant. to them. Like literally, the successor of Fallout 76 is what made Bethesda put itself like to be acquired by someone, because it was like their cachet got destroyed, like as an entity after how bad that game was. So.
Yeah, I mean, and Fallout 4 came out and didn't strike the world on fire either.
Exactly. So it was like the downward trend had already started, and then it just like crashed, the bus full of nuns got into fire and crashed into the garbage with Fallout 76. So I feel they have more. Now it's like, here's the thing, like now there's the expectation. They keep delaying this, like this better be polished. This cannot be a normal Bethesda release. Like any sign of the jank, they're gonna get destroyed.
No, for sure. But I mean, if you look at everything that Xbox puts out this year, even with Starfield having this date, it's a good year for Xbox, man. Because yeah, you got Minecraft, whatever the Minecraft thing is. Yeah, you got Minecraft.
We're getting impressions from Redfall soon, and I hear from the grapevine it's actually really good. From what I hear,
I've heard mixed things. I've heard mixed things, but we'll talk about that off screen. But like, you know, we got Redfall, we found Minecraft, we also have Forza, which is still coming out. We had Hi-Fi Rush, Starfield, and for them this summer, the big game is still going to be Diablo, because Diablo is going to be on day and date on Game Pass.
Not yet. That's still
right?
No, it's still not Game Pass, because the acquisition still hasn't been completed. So
okay, that's true.
People want that acquisition to be completed ASAP because they want Diablo on Game Pass.
Okay, but they still got Diablo coming out for them. It's just not day and day on Game Pass. But I mean, that to me is like, that's a big year for Xbox, you know?
Oh yeah, especially compared to last year. Is like this year is night and day. They have games this time. So right now the big thing is what's after Starfield, especially because they still, where's the Abouts? That's where it was from Obsidian. Where's
Put that next year.
Yeah, where's Hellblade? People are like, oh yeah, Hellblade will be the fall game. I'm like, when I see Starfield now in September, like, no chance. It's like, I feel like Starfield can carry them for the rest of the year. And they just need to get into cadence. Like, for as many studios that they own, they should be putting more games than than we get. So
really good. We get so many other games from far smaller studios that can put out an entire series of games before Bethesda puts out a sequel to theirs. Like, I get that bigger releases take more time, but at the same time, it's like, guys, why does it take so much longer? Like, at a certain point, you're either just dumping money or your resources are not being managed. And it's just,
and the 343 situation is like, puts that into a harsher, like a bigger contrast of that's a big studio that you own, that you technically nurtured, and we see like how mismanaged it just is. Their season 3 launched recently for Halo Infinite, which is insane that it took them this long to get it to season 3, but I heard from people that still play Halo that it's actually pretty good, but I'm like, too little too late personally. So yeah, I was like, well, now we know, and let's see. It's so funny that they're doing a direct the week before E3, or whenever they do a showcase. So it gives me vibes that they will try to keep the 12-month thing. They're just not gonna have Starfield there to not bring it to light the fact that this was one of those games that they put in that, no, don't worry, you're gonna be playing this within the time we're gonna do showcases. So I just want to just get consistent, Xbox. Just get freaking consistent. I want you to do good. So, story number 2. We haven't touched on this topic for a while because I just been like tired of it, but this one was like, what? That I was like, yeah, we gotta talk about this. So, story number 2, now from Tom Ivan over at BGC. Sony claims Microsoft could release buggy Call of Duty games for PlayStation consoles. Issuing its provisional findings on the proposed deal last month, UK regulator the Competition and Markets Authority raised concerns that Microsoft could choose to apply a range of tactics to stifle competition if the deal was approved. These included withholding games or content from Sony, offering fewer features on rival consoles, and degrading the quality of Activision titles on PlayStation. It suggested the simplest way to ensure there isn't a significant lessening of competition would be to block the deal entirely or implement a partial divestiture of Activision Blizzard that would see parts of the business, like Call of Duty, sold off and removed from the equation. However, the CMA said it would also consider a behavioral remedy, such as Microsoft's offer to make Call of Duty available on other platforms post-merger, although it views these as less favorable than structural ones, which rarely require monitoring and enforcement once implemented. In its newly published response to these findings, Sony said Microsoft's bid to acquire Activision should be blocked or subject to structural remedies if it's to be approved. It said behavioral remedies would be insufficient to address the regulator's concerns because there were myriad ways Microsoft could withhold or degrade access, which would be extremely difficult to monitor and police. It argued, if Microsoft failed to comply with its commitment, it would likely only risk paying a fine, possibly many years later, but rivals' access to Call of Duty would be immediately foreclosed, irreparably damaging their ability to compete and ultimately harming consumers. One of the ways Microsoft could choose to circumvent its obligations would be to release Call of Duty games for PlayStation, Sony claimed, swiftly detecting any diversions from and ensuring compliance with a commitment as to technical or graphical quality would be challenging, it said. For example, Microsoft might release a PlayStation version of Call of Duty where bugs and errors emerge only at the game's final level or after later updates. Even if such degradations could be swiftly detected, any remedy would likely come too late, by which time the gaming community would have lost confidence in PlayStation as a go-to venue to play Call of Duty.
I fear this delves a little into the constant back and forth of what might happen, to the point that I don't even know what to say anymore outside of just let's let it happen, see what happens, and we'll deal with it when we deal with it at this point. But I know that's a very consumer focus on it, because these companies are like, once it goes through, we can't stop it. But at the same time, I am tired of this back and forth.
No. Especially when the arguments are so dumb. The arguments they're putting are so stupid.
It's very arbitrary information. It's like, oh, they might throttle our game version. Then that would be terrible because people would hate PlayStation, Call of Duty, and Activision. And I'm like, I don't care anymore. I don't care. It's really that tired father with two siblings who have been bickering for hours, and you don't care which one slapped the other first. It's like, both of you, shut up. So yeah, it's I think that's where I'm at with this. Frankly, I'm tired of the back and forth.
Yeah,
it don't matter. Yeah. It don't matter how bad they put that PS5 version of Call of Duty. It still ain't gonna be as bad as the Nintendo Switch version.
Yeah. Remember that they're still committing apparently that if this goes through, they're gonna put it on the Switch. And
I don't know if that's gonna go well either, honestly.
Yeah, it's just what makes it so tiring is hearing all the stupid arguments that they're making, and I'm like, Sony, when has that been a thing? If people were making the conspiracy theories of the things they're making, is why are you raising these hypotheticals? Have you engaged in that kind of thing? Just saying. It's
he who smelt the Delta, you say.
Exactly so. Because it's no one else is saying garbage like this. No one. And to me, I kind of mentioned, it was easy for me to try to tune it out, all this thing, because it was just back and forth of hearing bad faith arguments from both sides. When I got whiffed of the fact that the reason we didn't get a freaking showcase from PlayStation last year was because they intentionally held back because they were fighting this goddamn thing. That's when to me got personal. Enough. Just shut up. These are not legit complaints, and man, if these regulators buy this kind of thinking, wow, it's that'd be a new low for me. Because this doesn't make any sense, especially when Microsoft is being clear. They have the contract enforceable. When they say enforceable, it's we got a contract, we're getting it for you for 10 years. It's it's what I always said, when did my camera die?
Yep.
Great. So I have to let me reopen.
You look like you're thinking very well, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you even just kind of continued, I don't think anybody would notice.
No, we would just think you were talking just in one breath.
I wonder how long this was dead for a little bit.
And just a couple of minutes.
I was watching it.
Yeah, just a couple minutes. So that being said, to get back on topic here, when do y'all feel this whole lawsuit, he said, she said divorce thing will be resolved?
Well, I thought it was going to be within a year, and then we found out that's not a thing. So
yeah, the whatchamacallit, the FTC suing was gonna delay this whole thing, which sucks. Okay, I'm gonna use this camera now because my other one disappeared.
All right.
Hey.
Yeah.
Join Crappy Camera Club. Crappy.
the one for my laptop. But yeah, it's like it would be insane for me if this if they block this deal over this kind of argument. Like I just like this is the one point where I'm like, Sony, you have completely lost the plot for me. Like the things that you're willing to fight for, and screwing your player base from being excited about your platform if you're withholding content because of this damn thing. So, but kind of like I was before I got my camera that got destroyed there. Then getting so tied to the hip to Call of Duty, I think this is what happens when they're so tied to the hip to them. Like they're trying to do all these arguments over a game they don't even own. They're fighting tooth and nail. It's like they seem so desperate, and it's very hard for me to like feel any sympathy or for them like any way, shape, or form. But it's great for comedy, I tell you. It's just great for comedy because like, how much worse can this get, Paul? How much worse like the arguments can be made with this?
At this point, all that's going to happen out of here is just bad things for everyone. And we're just going to like find more things out about either Activision that's really terrible, or Sony's going to continue trying to make things worse. But either way, it's like nobody's going to come out of this unscathed. We're way past that, and it's only going to get worse. So it's literally in Sony's best interest to just let this happen and to salvage their PR as much as they can, because even if they succeed, then the damage is going to be done.
Yeah, I agree with that. So let's move on to, this is something that may be exciting for you, Sebastion, because you're actually going to this thing. So story number 3, E3 opens industry registration and claims AAA companies will appear. So far, Ubisoft is the only major publisher to have publicly committed to the show's return. Story by Andy Robinson. E3 2023, the flagship industry event's first physical show in 4 years, will run from Tuesday, June 13, and has been taken over from the Entertainment Software Association by ReedPop, the media and events company behind PAX, EGX, and Star Wars Celebration. I didn't know they did Star Wars Celebration also. So far, Ubisoft is the only major publisher to publicly commit to the physical E3 2023 show, while Nintendo has confirmed it will be skipping this year's event. However, in an update published on Thursday, ReedPop claimed that unnamed AAA companies, in addition to indie darlings and tech and hardware firms, have committed to making their return to the LA Convention Center. The full roster of exhibitors will be announced in the lead up to the expo, providing participating companies the opportunity to make their own individual announcements beforehand. So, Ubisoft confirmed. I wonder who else.
You know, I wish I was excited about this. I'm like, I haven't been excited about a Ubisoft game in like a long time now. What were you saying, Paul?
I was just thinking, like, I know if I was going there, I feel like I'd feel some of the hype in general. It's definitely such a huge blow to not hear anything from the first-party companies. But I do feel like there's a chance that there's still going to be some decent bangers revealed or at least confirmed here. Because the world is still a big place, and even if we only hear about like 5 different companies doing all of the big releases and big drama, there's a lot of stuff that can be shown and a lot of stuff that can get people excited. It's a shame that everyone's kind of realized the cheat is to just do your own show and then put it online, but maybe we'll still see some good stuff. Maybe I'm just doing all that.
Yeah, to me it's like very sus that they're not willing to tell us who's gonna be there. Usually by this time we know who's going. And Ubisoft, kind of like what you were mentioning, Sebastion, is like Ubisoft is in the worst state they've ever been. It's hard to get excited about anything they do. So them being like the only one that has confirmed is like, am I supposed to be excited about that? Keighley, last summer Game Fest was disappointing, but the one before that was really great. He has done really great with the shows after that summer Game Fest, if you remember, Paul, the one that only gave us Last of Us Part 1 as like the big show closer. That was like the weakest show he had done, but like Opening Night Live, really great. Game Awards, amazing. and he knows the feedback he got over Summer Game Fest. I can imagine he would try to continue that momentum, and I feel that's what this show where it's at. And I feel if it's, like kind of like we mentioned behind the before recording, Sebastion, like for you, like because you're going to E3, have you booked? Yeah, are you booked to go?
Yeah, I'm booked to go.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the connections that you can make, that usually that's what the big thing that some people like didn't understand the importance of E3, that E3 was a great place to go market and connect, and like
it was a trade show. It was
a literal trade show.
It was a trade show, and it was about making connections. It was about also getting your games out in front of like different people as well. Like over the years, it become more of a showcase kind of thing, but like. Mm-hmm. This might be the E3 where it kind of gets back to its roots, so to speak, and becomes that trade show kind of event again. And to be honest, it needed to evolve for a very long time, a very, very long time. So, you know, this is the natural evolution of things. Sometimes evolution is de-evolution, so to speak. And, you know, maybe a couple of steps backwards will be good for it, you know, or maybe the inevitable will happen and, you know, this might be the last hurrah. But, you know, regardless, it's good that some people are showing up, and because like little news, even if you feel like it's not relevant to you or not, it's still better than no news.
Better than no news, especially for this. It's like they have to know like going to E3 is not cheap. It absolutely is not. I was hearing upwards of $4,000 could be like like just for like for the places where you're gonna stay and all of that. Is like that's the kind of prices I've heard. Unless you have family in the place that you can kind of like undercut lodging, because lodging alone is going to be the problem. But expecting for people to pay that much to go to a show that has like so little, I hope that whatever they're holding off are actually big bangers that make you go, okay, that's cool that they're actually going to be there. But in this new era where we're seeing the digital showcases and all that, like E3 is definitely like a relic of what it was. Right now, it feels like it's PAX but with the E3 name, based on like the indie darling thing, and that's fine, but it's not E3. Like E3 is like where you go see the big stuff. PAX is where indies go to shine. And I mean, you're going to PAX in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I am going to PAX in 2 weeks, but I mean, I think like PAX is going to have like a whole bunch of the indie darlings, like you're saying, and games we haven't heard of. But like E3, I will say, even with like some of the, I would say not like S tier publishers going to be there with PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo, like it'll still have a lot of familiar IPs, I bet. Like I'm willing to bet like during that week there probably is going to be a new Sonic the Hedgehog announcement. There's probably going to be a new Tomb Raider announcement. There's probably going to be a Lord of the Rings announcement of some form of some facet. You know, like so many people are doing a Star Wars project like nowadays. There's probably going to be a Star Wars announcement there. We'll probably see a Marvel project gameplay of some sort, you know.
What if it's a Keighley show happening around the same time?
It could be, and that could be. I mean, like some of those things might show up at Keighley's. I don't know if Keighley's going to do all those because he also has so many relationships with like FromSoft and different things like that. To me, there's like only so much time that Keighley could put on in a 2-hour presentation, so to speak, or maybe an hour and 15-minute presentation, depending on how long he wants to make it this year.
Yeah, he usually goes above the 2 hours, so
we'll see. So. And some of that time it's also like dedicated commercials because he has to also, you know, make his money back. So like all of that is like there's only so much time you could do in that 2-hour window. Like a lot of that's going to trickle to E3 because like whereas like a lot of us look at E3 probably like as a relic, a lot of these other like first party or third party developers are going to be like, hey, I can be the biggest fish in a smaller pond now, you know. And then like just like you remember how like Sony and Nintendo and Microsoft all used to have their dedicated days at E3, and they had those days because like they can rule the news cycle for that particular day. Embracer Group and Ubisoft and everybody showing up at E3.
They were like in between, and they were, if you remember, Ubisoft was like in between the big showcases back in the day.
For sure.
Like we got the Microsoft showcase earlier in the morning on a Monday. And then like you would have the smaller ones like the Square Enixes, the Ubisofts in the between, and then it would end with like the PlayStation showcase. Whenever Sony left E3, that balance completely got out of whack, because some of these other showcases didn't warrant like being the big headline. Especially for those smaller third parties, they were good for like time killing or time wasting for as you got into like the bigger stuff. So not having any of the three sucks, but the thing is that I bet you they're still gonna have digital showcases around this time.
Oh
just
yeah,
to,
for sure.
just to kind of like synergize with the psychology of like it's E3 time. That's kind of like what people like about that time because it's just gaming Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
if I'm Embracer Group right now, I'm taking that landscape and I'm like, I could be the biggest fish on one particular day and I can just rule that. And like, I could just go balls to the wall and make like this bigger, larger than life showcase that everyone's talking about.
As long as they don't have more Saints Rows, they gotta they gotta show up with like quality if they want to like be able to earn headlines. So
yeah, for sure. But what I'm saying is like, you know, like if I know I got some bangers going on, like I'm fully going like deep this year and just like showcasing, doing the best showcase I possibly can do.
I can't wait. Like, have your phone on hand and definitely show us like the things that you watch while you're there because it'll be fun to see someone that's like in the end because we're only gonna be able to see it from like the outside, like usual. So you're gonna be like our correspondent. The E3 correspondent. I always wanted to be that, and I mentioned it to the season gaming guys that I wanted this year is going to be the wait and see for me. Like, I want to see how that goes and see within the next year who then joins in, and maybe then I can start saving to attempt to try to go. So
yeah, for sure, I understand that.
Yeah, and definitely I'm gonna hit you up and you tell me like how much it costs you to go. To kind of start like making numbers. So smaller news bits now, but time for some hilarity. Paul, you broke this one to me while I was playing Dead Cells today, and I burst out laughing. Story number 4 by Andy Robinson. Rocksteady Suicide Squad has reportedly been delayed again following showcase criticism. The game will now release later this year, it's claimed. Warner Bros. Has reportedly delayed Rocksteady Suicide Squad until the second half of 2023 following negative responses to a recent gameplay showcase. According to Bloomberg sources, Warner has decided to push the title from its previously announced May release date until later this year. If this game was dead DOA after that showcase in May, putting it now in the same quarter where Spider-Man is launching?
Such a bad decision on their part.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, okay, so bad decision, sure, but also, yeah, it's just, at this point, it needs to come out. They need to write it off as the loss for their taxes.
Yeah.
And move on. This game, there's nothing that they're going to be able to change or polish that's going to see. It's not the polish that's the problem.
It's just the concept. It's just the subject matter. The subject matter, not too bad. The concept of a live service.
Yeah,
it's like
that's a better.
Yeah. And
yeah, I'm right there with y'all.
Yeah. And because there are some people who are like, oh, so they delayed it. So are they gonna like walk back all the live service? I'm like, too late.
That game's already made.
Yeah, that game's already made. It's like, if it was indefinitely delayed, I would believe that, but not like for a second half of this thing. Like, not a second half of this year. The game that we saw in that poor state of play is the game that we're getting. That like fundamental misunderstood, like that fundamental misunderstood game that. There's like it shouldn't have been like what it turns out to be, especially when we see glimpses of the game it could have been. So,
I will say this is a smart business move though from like their studio and like that publishing company because like the fall besides Starfield right now and Spider-Man is relatively empty. I'm like you could even if like you didn't quite set the world on fire, you're gonna get sales because there's not very much else there.
It will be the Gotham Knights conundrum. Like that game sold a lot, not only because it had the Batman and Jason name, but remember that fall was sparse until December. December was when we started getting a lot of games. Yeah, but it was like so many few games coming out around that same time that it's why like game like Saints Row sold so much.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'm like, put this in October, like around that October time. Get ready, discount it a little bit towards Black Friday. This game is going to sell. Like, I don't think it'll sell like tremendously well, but I do think it because word of mouth will probably spread really quickly. But like there's so many casual gamers that are like casual gamers and then casual mom and dads that are going to look at this fall and be like, oh, I can pick this up for my kids like super easy, like my teenagers that won't necessarily know the ins and outs of this game.
I would love the idea of a mom picking up Suicide Squad, kill the Justice League for the kid.
You know, like parenting's different nowadays. Like,
I know.
like
I just love that dichotomy.
yeah, for sure. But you know, like there's this game's gonna sell better in the fall than it would against like like Tears of the Kingdom against like Star Wars Jedi Fall.
Yeah,
Jedi
just
Survivor.
remember it was sandwiched like because Redfall got put into that window also, so it was like from May to like June. It was like Redfall, Tears of the Kingdom, Diablo 4, Street Fighter 6, Final Fantasy 16. I mean, come on, it's like Suicide Squad had no prayer, especially after that gameplay showcase. So it has a better shot, but it's like it's being releasing so close to Spider-Man now puts it in bigger it's gonna put it like in bigger contrast of like what a misguided decision to do this is a live service compared to a game that is not gonna be a live service. It's gonna sell millions of copies and I bet it's gonna review so well.
Oh yeah, for sure. But if you're PlayStation, you're happy about this decision because like maybe you have like 2 games this fall that are both gonna probably move the needle for PS5s just that much further, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So it's so funny that happened that quick, a delay. Like we had like just literally, was it 2 weeks ago that we saw the state of play? It's like it feels like longer because Paul has been traveling, but yeah, it was just 2 weeks ago.
Really does.
So, but hey, that cartoony Justice League game comes out this week, Paul.
You know,
I know. It's like at least the Justice League is well represented in cartoony form somewhere. So.
You know, at this point, if I'm DC, I'm starting to license out my properties like crazy at this point.
So, as I read this next story, I want one of you guys to go to Twitter and go check Water64 just to double check because as we're recording right now, a Capcom presentation is happening. Obviously, we're not like watching it, but
what am I actually looking for here?
So,
like this. Okay, hang on.
I'm on Wario 64 right here.
Perfect.
As well.
Yeah. As I read the story, so story number 5. A Resident Evil 4 remake demo is seemingly coming today, according to a new ad. Capcom is hosting a presentation later where a demo will likely be announced. It appears that the ad has been made active too early because Capcom is set to air a digital presentation of its upcoming games later today. Twitch users have been reporting that an ad for the game has been occasionally appearing presents with the words demo available now. So, you guys see any whiffs of like the Capcom showcase there?
No, there's a little bit. Ghost Trick, which I think was one of the things mentioned in the Capcom thing, is releasing on June 29th.
Okay.
Exoprimal releasing July 13th.
Okay, so Tom Henderson was right because he leaked that all today.
Okay. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak is releasing US PSN on April 27th. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Mega Man NT Warrior Season 1 and 2 goes up March 21st for free. That's the TV show tie-in. Mm-hmm. Legacy Collection still releasing April 14th for all platforms on Xbox. And I don't even think that was part of the actual show.
Yeah, that's still happening. So just keep an eye on that. So just a little PSA for that thing. They say have demo available now. So by the time that you hear this recording, there may be a demo for Resident Evil.
Probably so.
4, and I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait. It's so close. 2 weeks. The game comes out in 2 weeks. So as you keep an eye on that final story by Chris Scullion over at BGC, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Update rebalances the game and adds 5 blank character slots. The latest, so the most notable addition in version 2.3.0, which is now available for download, is support for Wave 4 of its Booster Course Pass DLC, which adds 8 more courses to the game. The DLC also adds Birdo to the roster, making it the first wave to add a new character instead of just new tracks. However, rather than reorganizing the character select screen in a way that adds Birdo cleanly, the game has now added 5 question mark spaces. In a press release regarding Wave 4 and Birdo following last month's Nintendo Direct, Nintendo stated, returning characters from the Mario Kart series will be added in future waves. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which was the complete package of the Wii U game released on Switch, and then got added and then had like all this DLC added to the $50 a year expansion pass, Nintendo Online. Now adding characters. Nintendo's actually doing a live service, guys. How old is this game?
Well,
just think
it's funny because Nintendo hates calling it that, but I feel like it's been a live service for a long time.
I was about to say Smash Brothers was towards the end.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But that's the thing. Like Smash has always had like a structure of like releasing the characters and all that. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is technically even older than this Smash Brothers, and it took them this many years to then start adding like all these new courses. That it was, I think it started last year where they started adding the new tracks, and now they're adding like the new characters. And like, I'll say this: there's so many games that Nintendo has that should be, and I keep underlining this, that should be live service, that they just like drop support so quick. Then I don't understand why. Mario Maker 2 should have been one. They literally only gave that game 1 year of support, and then they dropped it. So obviously this Mario Kart has sold how much now? Like, I could look at the sales numbers after.
So much.
Stupidly.
Yeah, it sold so much. And to be fair, it's a really, really good Mario Kart.
It is
so good. It's also long in the tooth at this point, but hey, at least they're adding more than just tracks. So it's so funny that nowadays, like, are they gonna release another like track pass after this? Because it was 4 waves of tracks that they promoted for. So new characters joining Mario Kart, people. So if you're still excited to play that with your friends, if you still have parties where friends come over to play, now you know, like, that's a game that I play.
I guess the game that keeps on giving, that's for sure.
Yeah, this and Smash has always been like when I have some of my friends from here like come over, or I go to some of them, this is the games that we play. So it's good to see it being supported, because Nintendo is just very bad at that. So any updates on the Capcom thing?
Nah, still the same.
Yeah, still the same. Like, because I see from my end that the last thing that they mentioned was Hikaru Takahashi announced as a Street Fighter 6 commentator, subtitles for 13 languages for Street Fighter 6, and a digital theme park announced for Capcom 40th anniversary on June 12th. So it's still like, that's still ongoing. So Sebastion, because Paul's mic is not the best, you're doing his releases.
Alrighty then.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the game releases from well, give me 1 second.
Got one shot, Sebastion.
Yeah.
From March 12th to March 18th.
You changed the date on me. You changed the date on me. Mid reading, you changed the date. It was like the teleprompter was just changing right then and there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the game releases from March 12th through March 18th, 2023. All right. First up, we have The Legend of Heroes, Trails to Azure. Oh, okay. PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC. Coming at you March 14th. The Wreck, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and X, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Also March 14th. March 15th, we have Woken, Lords of Mayhem, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and X, Anno, and 1800. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and X, March 16th. The Dark Pictures Switchback VR, PlayStation VR, that is. PlayStation 2 VR, March 16th. Bayonetta Origins. What's the word?
Cereza.
Cereza.
Cereza,
or
yeah. Or Cereza. Like, that's kind of like, yeah, Cereza.
I like that, Cereza. And The Lost Demon for Switch on March 17th. And finally, WWE 2K23, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and everywhere else probably in the world, coming at you March 17th.
Such a non-week for me.
Yeah. So, which games are y'all going to be playing from this list?
0. How about you?
Actually, I'm gonna keep an eye on Anno 1800 because I've heard good things about it. And
is that the ship game?
Is that the ship like strategy game?
It's like Imagine City Skylines, but more focused.
Oh yeah.
Specifically on that time period, it's like economic stuff, because I don't think it's just ships. I thought it was like the city around it as well.
It looks like it's steampunk, and it's not like the shit like the sci-fi ship.
I don't think it's steampunk. It's literally just the 1800s.
The 1800s, yeah. So.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it's like the week afterwards is the one that I'm excited for. That's RE4 week. So
I'm gonna be playing WWE 2K23. I'm breaking somebody's back. I'm putting people through the tables. I'm calling out somebody, If I don't slam a wrestler through a table this week, I'm going to be a cranky boy.
I
I will say, the last game that I played from that series, randomly, when I was working at GameStop, I picked up WWE 2K13.
Oh,
And that was some of the dumbest fun I've ever had.
Oh yeah, I've heard.
There's
It's
no
fun.
explanation for how the game works. You just go in and you just mash buttons. Like, there's a way to do things. There's no explanation for how. It's chaos, and it's so funny.
I'm going to be playing I'm going to put like 40 hours into this game probably this week.
Yeah.
Just pure dumb fun.
Yeah. My thing with I think it was the 2K20 one or the 2K19 one that was like so hilariously broken.
20 is the one that was janky. Yeah,
it was like, but like spectacularly broken. Like it
was bad.
Like in a way that it's like that it's beyond understanding. Paul, I'm gonna find you videos of that 2K20. It's like
2K20 was like a 4 out of 10 broken. It was bad. It was like the characters would get stuck into like the not only like the ring, but like the mats around the ring and different things like that.
Started like flipping around.
Yeah, the animations were nasty. It was gnarly. It was the worst, one of the worst experiences I've ever played.
And unfortunately, it was the first time that they switched developers for that game also. So that's what made it worse, because they took out Ukes.
Yeah.
So,
and Ukes is now making their competitors game.
Okay, Exoprimal is launching on Game Pass. Nice. Yeah. Yes.
Oh.
That's
I've never played one of those, so.
Yeah, I mean, Exoprimal is that kind of like Left 4 Dead looking dinosaur game. You're playing as for with like machines. Yeah, so that sounds like a perfect
the
Game
one that
Pass
we
game.
thought was going to be Vanquish at first, or like Dino
Crisis, yeah. And it says open beta test from March 17th to March 19th. Okay, so the week the Horrorless games, that's what I'm going to be playing that week.
So Exoprimal is like mechs meets dinosaurs, basically?
Yeah, it's mechs aliens versus the dinosaurs, like hordes and hordes of dinosaurs. This was announced at State of Play back in like March 2022, if I remember correctly. That was the same State of Play that announced Starfield Chronicles and Valkyrie Elysium, Paul. That one. Just
I see.
Yeah, so yeah, at least it's gonna be on Game Pass. So and then at any point they're gonna announce the demo for this. So enough of that. Jens, where can people find you?
But you can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter whenever I'm alive, and also YouTube at Dork of Art. Sebastion, where can they find you?
You can find me at the Single Player Experience Podcast, the premier podcast where you can find out about good single player games to play and, just good dev interviews. We also have a lot of things coming down the pipeline. We have the creator of Maquis Adventures coming down there. We are going to be covering PAX as well. We'll be on the floor. So
I can't wait to hear like your PAX experience. And I'll note whoever from Season Gaming is like there, and I'll let you know to see if you can like meet them up.
Yeah, just let me know. I'd love to meet and greet everyone. So I'm like, we'll be doing some coverage there. I've booked more interviews than I probably have like booked food appointments at this point. So like that I'll probably have moments to eat. So like be on the lookout for everything on the Single Player Experience podcast and YouTube channel. So that's pretty much where you can find me. Al, what can they find you?
They can find me at _George on Twitter, at Alejandro Segovia 93 on Instagram, at Segovia on Hive, and my written content mostly right now at seasongaming.com. So,
okay.
Gents, it's been fun. Always good to see you, Paul, even if you're not in your not most optimal of circumstances. I'm just glad that you're alive. I'm hoping that your final move to wherever you are like goes smooth, because I've heard you said that you had some funny stories to tell that I can't wait to hear for that. And
not ready to laugh about them just yet, but
because you're still in the middle of the storm. It may not be a hurricane, but you're in a different kind of storm. And then there's been storms over here, Sebastion, right? Like I think it was last week
crazy. It's raining right now, like legitimately raining and thundering right now. So in Dallas, Texas is kind of crazy over here right now.
Yeah, it's which is so weird. One of the podcasts that I listen to, the Last Word podcast, Destiny podcast they host, they're in Dallas, and that big storm like shut their podcasts out, so no more episode for the rest of that week. So yeah, just stay safe from those storms, Sebastion, and I'll see you again whenever we can have you, and I'll see you later, Paul, and everyone else. Thank you for listening and watching whenever you get your podcast services, whether it's from our channels or through Sebastion's generous sharings. So stay safe, stay healthy. I've heard.
Press the
There's
It's
no
fun.
explanation for
play.
how the game works.
Good night,
You
everybody.
just go in
Hasta
la
and
vista,
just mash
baby.
buttons like